it is 10:30. We should get started.
Wait, before we do those. Oh, you can go ahead and get started, but
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
There are handouts coming around. Feel free to peruse them. It's 2 pages.
No, wait, this is, the one I got is the donation.
Oh, well, that's not good.
Yeah, those aren't good, right?
So we don't have the Wild Church handout. We just have
This is for
the
this is
oath.
the voting on
We just have the oath.
the donation.
I have one.
Oh.
Everybody else has donations?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Try at the bottom of that pile and see if there are any. If not, I'll have to know if it's all the same, the donations.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, well, we'll get started.
It's wild.
Thank you, Lori, for that. Welcome to the chaos of the Wild Church. I'm Barb Morris, and I would like to, thank you for being here. I'm excited to do this. And I would love to have us just open the circle by, if you're willing, say your name and tell us what place raised you. So is there a place that you remember in your childhood or in your adulthood, a wild place with whom you have a relationship? And I'm asking for a word, a phrase, a sentence at most.
I'm Betsy Kelly and Car Canyon, Arizona.
Me and my grandparents' land in southern Georgia.
Carol, we're asking about what place raised you?
I'm Janie, and there's a little place in Rain Park that is special.
I'm Martin, and we called it, when we got the place, we called it 80 Little Acres. And it was a little farm in northern New York State, but just not far from the Adirondack.
So we're introducing ourselves with just our first name and the place that raised you.
I'm Jan. The place that raised me is a ranch in Crowheart, Wyoming.
I'm Elaine and I was raised by the woods of Arkansas.
I'm Raven, and I was raised by the Colorado River.
I'm Maureen and a rock on Windy Sea Beach in San Diego.
I'm Bob, and what stands out for me is taking our kids to Silver Lake in Sierras. Lots.
Let's go get that door. Thanks, Mom. Joe?
I was raised no place in every place. Kathleen, and I was raised by an area in the Laramie River area above Amarillo House.
I was raised on the dunes, dune-covered dunes of Long Island, on Fire Island and other places. That's near where the waters roll in.
True.
Maggie, and we also moved around a lot, but settled in a place with a big backyard. I grew up in the big backyard with apple trees, a vegetable garden that had terrible soil, and a dairy farm next door.
Thank you.
I'm Peter. I grew up influenced deeply by Folly Beach and James Islands in Charleston, South Carolina area, but also was raised by some trips to Colorado.
I'm Lori, and I was raised by a spot along the Moose Wilson Road in Grand Teton National Park, where I had a friend who was an aspen tree, and would walk to the Snake River and fish and hang out. And that was my special place.
And I was raised by Aspen Creek in central Arizona, in Prescott. Did we miss anybody? Anybody? Carol.
I was raised in North Central New Jersey, in a tiny village, but on a large dairy farm that had a garden and some fresh fruit, and it was just wonderful.
Thank you. Remind me to include the Zoom folks. That's not going to come automatically to me. The Zoom folks, it's not going to come automatically to me. So, PowerPoint,
Coming.
get that up. Thank you. And so while we wait, this is the Church of the Wild. I found this book in a bookstore in Manzanita, Oregon, and it just jumped right out at me. Church of the Wild, How Nature Invites Us into the Sacred. And it's on your handout as one of the resources, along with a few websites. So what we're going to do today, the next slide. We're going to talk about Wild Church. What is it? Why would we do this uncomfortable thing? Why not sit in our climate-controlled seats with windows where we can't see outside? Why would we go outside? Should we choose to do it? How do we do it? And how is Wild Church pilgrimage? We already talked about what place raised you. We'll do a short Terra Divina, and you'll find out what that is. And then we'll come back and you can tell us what you heard if you want to. Can everybody hear me? Alrighty, next slide. Wild Church is not just going outside for church. It's a completely different mindset, a mindset of reclaiming kinship with all beings, a mindset of saying, we are nature. We're not just taking church out into nature. We are of nature. We are nature. The word translated wilderness in the Bible can also be translated the organ that speaks. Equally valid translations. So wilderness could be considered a mouth. And what we're doing in Wild Church is we are going out into the mouth, and our job primarily is to listen in Wild Church, not to be stewards, not to be extractors, not to be appreciators even, but to be listeners. Any responses to that?
Well, that fundamental difference, being a listener and receiver of the word of the wilderness as opposed to somebody who manages wilderness. Yeah.
We like to, it feels like in churchy circles, even for us just to say we're stewards is like really green. But Wild Church would say that's not going near far enough. Not far enough.
I'm not the one in charge.
Yeah. Yeah. Even that we have a lot of control and a lot of power that humans are part of. All right, next slide. So why Wild Church? According to Church of the Wild and some other sources, Wild Church begins to heal the human created split between heaven and earth. It opens us to receive the gifts of the other than human beings and greatly enlarges our family. When we're kin, when everything around us is kin, then our family is grown a lot bigger. Fosters wholeness for humans and health for the earth, roots us in scripture, and aligns with our progressive theology.
When you say roots us in scripture, I think a while back somebody was saying about how the rocks would cry out. And I think I shared with you, but I hadn't heard it. I heard it a different way, but that time I heard it like, yeah, the rocks are always shouting at me all kinds of great stuff. It's like
They say,
pick me.
well, there's that. I'm getting over that. But yeah, it's just that, strength and solidity and all these things, like a whole sermon.
Yeah. And over and over and over, God sends leaders, especially into the wilderness. I mean, it's not just Jesus, but Jesus is our primary example of one who was sent into the wilderness upon the inauguration of his mission. But so many others. One of my favorite stories is the first creation story of God in the mud making humans. I mean, God is playing in the mud, and then God breathes into that mud and makes humans from mud. Adam, the word Adam means earthling. Any other ideas of memories, like Maureen was talking about the rocks crying out? Can you think of any?
I was thinking about sitting under trees. There was a set of trees that I used to sit under. And it didn't seem to matter which one of the 3 trees I sat under. And it didn't seem to matter what time of year when we were up there camping. But I would sit with my back against the trunk of the tree, and leaves would fall and land head, shoulders, arms, lap, because I would sit with my legs stretched out. And of course, I don't have very long legs, and when I was a child, I had even shorter legs, shorter everything. And just the feeling of the leaves on my skin or my head and the weight that they had was so much more than their actual weight. As if they were trying to impart something very profound.
Weightiness.
Thank you. All right, next slide. So that first statement on their previous slide begins to heal the human created split between heaven and earth. Unpack that a little bit, because that's a pretty profound, assertive statement, audacious. So why would we want to heal that split? If we think it exists, which I'm convinced it does, that we've created this chasm between the earth and heaven. And the good, heaven is always up there, earth is always down here. Heaven is good, earth is bad. We heard it in hymns this morning. It was there. So why would we want to heal the split? What has it created?
I want to say that as a young child, there isn't that split. It happens, you're gradually fed that.
Absolutely.
And so and that's why going out in the wild is one place where if you can give up all the extra messages and music that goes in your head, you can begin to feel the wholeness again. And that lack of what church, schools, all the institutions that we've experienced in our lifetimes have taught us. So again, young child, again, forgetting all that we have felt and loved and thought has to sort of be erased first before you can do that.
So can I ask you another question? What have been the results of that split between heaven and earth in your life, would you say, Terry? What gets healed when you go into the wilderness?
You said heaven and earth. Man is bad. You know, we have that evilness in us. You know, that's been said many times in our lives. But as we grow older, we begin to realize that that hasn't been the case, and we begin to be more truthful with ourselves. And again, if you're out in the wilderness, you can wash that away. For me, it's been going to church when I was a little girl. Very definitely. Angels are up there. People are all the dualism
Yeah,
that
yeah,
books.
that dualism
And,
is,
yeah.
yeah, the shorthand word for that split. Yes, thank you.
Instead of wholeness.
Yeah.
Also, something about our consumerism and capitalism, that's part of this, you know. We have the right to take and sell products that come to us, basically that we gather from the earth. And I think that attitude is at the heart of a lot of difficulties that we have right now.
Do you think that comes from a scarcity rather than an abundance mentality? Because we need the earth to feed us. It is not as if my eating a carrot is exploiting the earth. But my gathering 10 carrots when I need but one is that scarcity mentality is created.
Which is fear-based. If we're disconnected from everything, it's a scary place to be.
It's
If we can reconnect, the split heals and connects. No longer scary, it's abundant.
It's a little bit innate in us, though. We have only to look at birds chasing other birds off a feeder, hummingbirds, the fight that is at those feeders. I think that scarcity is inherent in us enough that it takes real effort
Yeah,
not to succumb.
the lizard brain, our midbrains do that real easily, and I think, yeah, it takes the cerebral cortex, our HOTS, I used to say to my kids, our higher order thinking skills. We got, that takes work to activate, it doesn't grow out of, kids don't have that so much, but it's.
We need to get the HOTS.
We need to move into our HOTS, our higher order thinking skills, and then we can. There is also a lot of research, though, that says that there's a lot of cooperation in nature that we don't see.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of that with little kids too, how some little kids are just so many just share abundantly, right? But at some point, how do we get taught that that's not what we do?
Yeah.
I think to what Jan said, I think it's kind of a hoarding mentality that is rooted in fear. So there's the scarcity, but then fears behind it. Capitalism is about not having scarcity and trying to have something to secure ourselves in a world where you can't secure yourself with that stuff. So we just tend to want to take rocks home, and I don't mean for things, but a lot of things is secure, this, and then there's a lot of things to get over.
Things happen on the news, and then, they talk about things going away, and then poof, your SSI doesn't show up on the first of the month.
All right, I'm gonna call topic on that.
Okay.
Martin, I feel like you've been trying to.
Yeah, but I think too that, there is a natural thing for hoarding, but the hoarding is a little different because immediately when you spoke about that, I thought about when we were up in Canada with the Anishinaabe people up there. Canada is clear cutting their forests, and they showed us an aerial photo of the place. And from the lake, you see the trees, but they only go back about 50 feet. And then behind that 50 feet of trees are stumps, just where they clear cut. And so that's for money. That's for hoarding money and building some kind of empire or whatever it's for. I think it's for the people at the very top wanting to make sure that they have enough for their future generations and so. So the people, the native people up there, what they want to do is go and cut it the way they want to. They take the sicker ones and whatever, but they leave a lot of the original trees there so that they can still hunt and trap and all that. So there is a little difference, I think, in the hoarding, or just because suddenly I like all of these these rocks, so I want all these. I don't think about for that moment that somebody else might like one of these rocks. And then eventually I usually put them back, if that's this kind of situation, you know, but to take it to remove them forever and create wealth is all different.
So something about balance that capitalism doesn't necessarily foster, I suppose.
Yeah, I wrote in my notes, destructive capitalism, rampant exploitation. Yeah. Thank you for all of that. To take that to a slightly different, the next paragraph in all of this, what are the results of saying being that things that are earthier are inferior? What happens when we say that the dirt is inferior to air?
Interestingly enough, I think women get thought of as less. It's an automatic, it's a
Yeah.
direct consequence.
We get patriarchy.
Yep.
Yep. If something that is, something's darker, if being darker is inferior to being lighter, what do we get? Racism. Yeah, yeah. We get white supremacy. I remember working in a little library in Missouri, at one of our many places we lived, one of my many libraries. And it was my first real encounter with poverty. Someone walked in and they smelled different. They were dirty. And to me, I was like, oh, what a classist response I'm having. So we get classism, we get ableism of both physical disabilities and mental illness. There are so many ramifications of this split. And schools and churches that are rigid, rampant exploitation of earth. So we get climate that's broken, we get extinctions, we get refugee crises. And it's all traces back to this idea that the earth is not as valuable as what isn't earthly. And again, these are audacious statements. I believe them. Y'all don't have to. And then to go back, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but in a lot, I think nearsightedness, like 100 years ago, just created a lot of destruction. You know, we lived in the Monterey Bay area, and they went through after the earthquake in San Francisco and cut down these old growth, massive redwood trees just to make shingles out of.
Yeah.
Not even something that was long lasting. And it was just, but anyway, just the short sight, we never thought that this tree's 1,000 years old.
Right,
You know,
right.
it'll be back.
It'll be back, no problem. Yeah. And then to go back to what Terry was talking about, when earth is desacralized, we also, I believe, and I think you were speaking to this, desacralize those parts of ourself. We make unholy those parts of ourself that are messy and chaotic and that we maybe don't want to let out and for others to see. So, responses to that? Any thoughts?
Give me an example of that.
Perfectionism, needing to show having all my ducks in a row and not being willing to show, hey, you know, I'm feeling kind of anxious about doing this morning.
Facebook.
Well, yes, well, yeah.
Instagram.
Yes. Yeah, Maggie?
I found a cute placard I put on my door that says, I don't have ducks and I don't have a row. I have chickens and they are everywhere.
Yeah. So there's checking my time. There's a school of therapy called internal family systems. And I don't, any of you familiar with it? Okay. The basic idea is that, you know, as kids, we're whole, you know, we are who we are, but then pretty quick, we learn that there are parts of us that maybe aren't quite as acceptable in our families as other parts of us. And so we tend to repress those, and we create parts of ourselves then to protect us from them and to protect them from us. So that, you know, the part of me that just isn't quite up to this stuff, just isn't quite perfect enough, that we learn is maybe just not acceptable out there in culture. And over time, those parts, they don't go away. They just muck around there in the dark, wreaking havoc.
It's actually internal family systems that helped me find a little part of myself. But this is totally related to, she calls herself Sunshine. She's like 4 or 5. She loves to go and play. But of course, she doesn't know how to track where she is or anything. And I can't find the memory, but there is one in there, I'm sure, of getting in trouble for getting lost.
Yeah.
And so then I developed this, I have to remember where I am. I have to take care of where I am, but doesn't let that part of me really play. So I try to put little containers around to let her come out.
Yeah, perfect example.
I'm thinking a lot about happiness, because I feel like that's the first thing we sacrifice when we have this split. And I experienced this, like, I feel like one of the hardest things for me in my work is walking into healthcare facilities. It's not that the people are at end of life, it's that I have to go inside into these tiny rooms that often have no natural light. And they're so supposed to be sterile, but I really feel like that's where the split plays out to our detriment in society, because it's really hard, I think, to be happy in a tiny room with poor lighting and, you know, no access to the outdoors. So I feel like in the name of, we think we're gaining safety, and maybe we are. There's like some aspect to being outside where it's like, well, someone could trip or we can't get to them quickly. So I'm just thinking about that well-intentioned, like, I have to work really hard to bring sunshine inside, you know, when I come to those people.
Yeah, thank you.
And following up with what Elaine just said, the opposite was the cure for tuberculosis in the Adirondacks. And they had porches outdoors, and people went out there and were there all day long, which enabled them, I mean, freezing cold, but again, it was being free of the air inside. It was listening for whatever you might hear. And it was for having that time, not with any sort of structure, to just be there.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
was one of the ways people were cured.
Same thing in Arizona. Yeah. So maybe the wilderness is curative. Well, we know the wilderness is curative. We have all sorts of science around that. We know that being outside changes our physiology, changes our gut biome. I mean, it's real interesting. We can keep going, but
I was gonna say that one of my experiences of being informed by a redwood tree, the first thing that the redwood tree said to me is you're just looking at one little piece of me. I am all this, meaning the entire forest. And you are all of you, you know, in the same way. I was like, oh, you know, because the tree, it's like that tree saw humanity as being this kind of short-lived infiltration of this forest. You know, it's like, I mean, that the words are even hard, but that we're like this one entity that went into the forest, and it's just been a short while that we've been in there. And the tree was like, what are you about? You know, meaning all of us, not just the little brain inside an individual head that was standing by that tree. Yeah.
So, telling Lori when we were beginning to plan this that the the earth healed my fear of death a few weeks ago. Just, she said that something to me that was like, oh, duh. So it was along with Holy Week journeys, and so I'm sure we all have things that the earth, the heavy leaves, there are earth speaks, the mouth, and the organ that speaks. Okay, next slide. And we could talk about this for days, man. How is Wild Church pilgrimage? Why did the sabbatical team decide that Wild Church was pilgrimage? My answer to that is to willingly take on discomfort, and the hope of transformation is the essence of pilgrimage.
Can you say that one more time? I loved it.
To willingly take on discomfort in the hope of transformation is the essence of pilgrimage. And that's me on the Camino 11 years ago. Anything to add to that?
Maybe so.
Indeed. All right, next slide. And there we are. We've done that. And since I want to practice a little Terra Divina, we'll move on. So Terra Divina, we've done a little Lectio Divina over the course of the Mystic series, which is spending time going deeper and deeper into the written word. We've done some Visio Divina, looking at pictures, paintings. Terra Divina is using the earth as our text. So I've written there, listen to yourself and your sibling earthlings. Stay within hearing distance of the cowbell. You have a form in your handout. It's the boxed segment right there. If you would like instruction, if you want structure. When you come back, and I'm going to give you a little more instruction, be ready to share what you heard if you want to, and you can only do this right. There is no failure. There is no failure. So what we're going to do is we will take let's take, I'm going to give you 12 whole minutes. We're going to have half an hour next Sunday to do this. So 12 whole minutes to simply wander somewhere, either if you want to stay in, you may, there's geraniums back there. But just to wander around within hearing distance of the cowbell. And as I've written, listen for the being who wants your attention. Something or someone will say, hey, over here, and don't overthink it. It might be a leaf, it might be a tree, it might be a weed. Who knows? It might be a cloud, it might be a whiff of breeze. When you've been chosen, just stay there and listen. Just listen, and don't, I think our tendency is to predict what should happen. This is an exercise in letting go of control and letting this being who called you to them give you what they want you to know. When you hear the cowbell, say thank you and come back in, and then we'll share. Make sense? Questions? I'm so glad it's a good day. Weather-wise, it's always a good day, but it's a warm day. All right, off with you.
Oh, look at that.
Can I bring you anything?
No, I've got
Enough
water.
there? Just want to leave or anything? No, all good?
Nope, I'm good.
All right,
I'm just a little worn out.
okay.
Barb, I'm just recovering from the cough thing, so I'm gonna just sit here.
All right. That's right, so you can listen to what your body's telling
Stay quiet.
you. Same thing.
Have a nice Mother's Day.
Thank you. I will need to do the same.
Side. I invite you to pay attention to your internal cues. If there's something in you that says, I don't want to share, don't share. Please do not feel that this is an obligation. A suggestion is to begin with, I heard, or the tree said to me, if that's helpful. And to keep it simple, a word, a phrase, a sentence at most. Jan?
There are 4 very ugly, dead-looking bushes next to a beautiful tree that's blossoming in purple. And people will walk right by, and they're indeed not dead. They're very, very much alive and delicate, viable. But how many do we walk by? You know, they just appear not to be pretty.
Is there a way to encapsulate what you heard? I mean, Post-it sized, would you say? If that's a helpful question.
I am here with my own different sort of views.
Thank you.
The thistles talk to me.
Yeah.
We are opportunists. We take moisture from the ground, even under the spruce trees, and stretch up to the sun. We're prickly and not very comfortable to be around. They're kind of like me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You have lovely blooms. Yes.
But you have to wait for it.
Oh,
Wait.
gosh. Oh, that's rich. Yeah.
The willow tree said to me, wow.
I had a robin tell me to move.
Like literally?
Yeah. We're on the church building.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
That tree gave me that memory that I was looking for.
Oh,
all right. Yeah, an FYI, I was not lost in the wilderness, I was lost in people. So that's to them. Then I asked the land itself if there was something for our community here. And I heard we called you.
It's got from this shrub out here, stretch, stretch. Stretch.
My tree was a shy little one and she just wanted me to look at her.
I heard the sun say, I'm always here.
I think we forget that sometimes with the clouds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard the stream say that life never stops. And that it is always going where it's supposed to.
We have a couple more minutes. We're just gonna sit, see if something bubbles up.
That makes me think of the proverb that you can never cross the same stream twice. Because you're never the same person and the water's never the same water.
Like the Little Mermaid, we're under the sea. There's a sea above, always in motion. It has moisture and currents and objects in it that are going by. So much to look up at.
The stream didn't speak to me, but I always find running water just so soothing. Maybe that is just speaking to me, but it always soothes me.
12 minutes isn't much time to build rapport with a wordless entity. Yeah.
I think you're right, that soothing of you is
Yeah.
it speaking to you, you know?
Maybe it's singing.
Could be singing.
Calm down, Bob.
Wading deeper.
Spoken like a true spouse.
I was watching this conifer out there, just covered with cum. I felt like she was too busy to talk. She was just like producing. You're busy.
On Mother's Day.
Yeah, a lot of mother stuff going on out
What a pleasure to do this with you all. Next Sunday is Wildish Church, kind of a combination. Lori's crafted a innovative, beautiful container for us. It's a wild church with some Episcopal elements, so we won't be too freaked out. And Peter doesn't get, you don't get to preach again. You're good with that, I'm guessing.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it feels like you guys are letting me off pretty easy.
Yeah, well, gonna have to pick it up. So we'll be gathering outside under the willow. Bring what you need to be comfortable.
Yeah, so if you'd rather sit on the ground, bring blankets. If you'd rather sit in a chair, bring a chair. We'll also have probably some chairs that we take out for people who don't remember to bring them. Which is, the willow itself has some flat places to sit on. And I think we'll use a TV tray for the communion table, little table. So that should be fairly easy. Yeah, I will. I was gonna talk to Tim, but I'll talk to you if you don't mind. Okay, so right after this. Great. Anyway, so I was just listening to the music in the church as we were sitting here, and I was going, man, is it hard to find appropriate music. You know, but you know what? We've got Jamie and Martin coming, and they have just written, well, one, they just wrote a song they wrote in Hawaii that is really Thanksgiving for the land. And then we're going to use their oak flats blessing, because that is the blessing of them by oak flats. And they say it's the blessing of us by you. So that ending song. We're staying away from music a lot because we're going to just be listening, and so, and it's about being uncomfortable in the service of transformation. It's appropriate. So hopefully a lot of people come.
Any final thoughts?
I think it's time for a nap.
I invite you to take just 15 seconds and go back to that place that raised you, or that tree, or whatever, and let's bring those entities into our circle. Amen.
Thank you.
This was so fun. Oh, next slide. Thank you. Yes.